California is a land of beauty and danger, a place where nature's extremes collide. Among the most destructive forces in the state are the Santa Ana winds, those hot, dry gusts sweeping through Southern California that often fuel devastating wildfires. Today, on History's Hidden Tales, we're exploring their story, from ancient beliefs to modern disasters, and discovering how these winds shape life in the Golden State. To understand the Santa Ana winds, we start with the fundamentals. They blow from inland deserts toward the Pacific coast when high-pressure systems form over the Great Basin in Nevada and Utah, pushing air westward. As this air descends through mountain passes, it compresses, heats up, and dries out. The result can be gusts exceeding 70 miles per hour, with humidity levels dropping to nearly zero. Perfect conditions for sparking and spreading wildfires. But speed and dryness aren't the only factors behind the Santa Ana wind's destructive reputation. Southern California's terrain and climate amplify their impact. The region's complex landscape, from inland valleys to mountain corridors, acts like a vast funnel, channeling dry desert air toward the coast. By the time it squeezes through narrow passages such as the Cajon Pass, temperatures rise even higher and moisture dissipates. This phenomenon, known as atmospheric compression, transforms already warm breezes into blisteringly hot gusts. Dryness is critical to fire risk. The lower the humidity, the more vulnerable vegetation becomes. Chaparral, grasses, and even oak woodlands turn tinder dry, ready to ignite at the slightest spark. Sometimes that spark comes from lightning. More often, it's human activity, downed power lines, an abandoned campfire, or an intentional act of arson. Whatever the source, once flames meet the supercharged air propelled by the Santa Anas, they can race across the landscape at terrifying speeds. These winds don't just affect the physical environment, they also carry a cultural and psychological weight. Nicknamed devil winds, they're infamous for causing discomfort, chapped lips, sinus irritation, and restless nights. Folklore holds that tempers flare whenever the Santa Anas blow. Although science doesn't firmly back claims of altered behavior, many Californians report feeling uneasy or agitated when the winds roar through the night. Whether or not these stories are exaggerated, they reflect how deeply the winds have woven themselves into local consciousness. From a broader ecological standpoint, the Santa Ana winds are not merely normal windy days. They're powerful weather events shaped by high-pressure systems, complex terrain, and seasonal dryness. This convergence of elements can remake entire landscapes, sometimes beneficially, by clearing out old, diseased vegetation, but often with devastating consequences for communities and ecosystems. The Santa Ana winds have been part of California's story for millennia. Long before European contact, indigenous peoples recognized their potency. Some saw them as omens of danger or the breath of powerful spirits. The modern name Santa Ana may stem from the Santa Ana Canyon in Orange County, although other theories suggest Spanish settlers once labeled them devil winds in response to their fierce, destructive nature. One of the most notorious associations of the Santa Ana winds is their role in fueling wildfires. As they sweep across hills and canyons, they paralyze efforts to contain flames. Fires can spread over vast distances at incredible speed. In some extreme scenarios, residents have only minutes to evacuate. The combination of high velocity, intense heat, and negligible humidity makes controlling such fires nearly impossible, especially when large embers travel miles ahead of the main fire line. Historically, Santa Ana events often coincide with California's prolonged dry season. From late summer into early winter, vegetation is parched, and the region's Mediterranean climate fosters conditions that evolved with periodic fire. Small, lower-intensity fires can renew ecosystems by recycling nutrients. But when the Santa Anas arrive, a modest blaze can transform into a massive inferno, overwhelming firefighters and entire communities. Meteorologists and fire scientists have documented how quickly these wind-driven blazes can grow. One moment, you have a few acres of burning brush. Then, as gusts surge past 50 miles per hour, flames leap roads, traverse canyons, and spawn multiple spot fires miles away. This creates a patchwork of ignitions that can encircle responders or block evacuation routes. High winds also carry thick smoke that further complicates rescue efforts. The impact on people is immense. Rapidly advancing fires force residents to abandon their homes with scant warning. Traffic jams, overloaded emergency lines, and stretched firefighting resources all compound the crisis. While many structures might withstand a smaller, slower moving fire, they succumb in minutes under a barrage of airborne embers. Survivors often describe these wind-whipped conflagrations as unstoppable waves of destruction. Ecologically, the consequences can be devastating. Although many California plants are adapted to fire, extremely hot blazes can scorch the soil and destroy seeds instead of simply dispersing them. Subsequent rainfall can trigger erosion or mudslides on bare hillsides, prolonging community disruptions for months or even years. This pattern exemplifies how catastrophic a wind-driven fire can be, from immediate devastation to long-term environmental scars. Over the years, the Santa Ana winds have contributed to some of California's most infamous wildfires. In 1961, the Bel Air fire ravaged over 16,000 acres and hundreds of homes, shocking Los Angeles with its ferocity. The Cedar Fire of 2003, one of the largest on record, burned more than 273,000 acres and took 15 lives, spreading at an astonishing rate under howling winds. And in 2018, the Woolsey Fire destroyed nearly 1,500 structures, underscoring how quickly these events can escalate. In response, California has heavily invested in firefighting and prevention. Specialized hotshot crews tackle the toughest terrain. Aerial tankers drop water or fire retardant, and red flag warnings alert residents to looming danger. Technology like satellite monitoring and wildfire tracking apps helps emergency personnel identify new outbreaks more quickly. Public education campaigns emphasize clearing brush, trimming trees, and creating defensible space around homes to safeguard lives and property. Despite these efforts, climate change complicates the picture further. Rising global temperatures extend the dry season, increasing the amount of combustible vegetation. More people moving into wildland urban areas means greater exposure to potential fires. Additionally, some models suggest that while Santa Ana winds may become less frequent in future decades, overall warming could make wildfires more intense when they do occur. Nevertheless, Californians have shown resilience. Building codes now encourage fire-resistant materials, and some communities organize evacuation drills and social media networks to coordinate real-time fire updates. Utilities sometimes shut off electricity in high-risk zones during extreme wind events to avoid downed power lines. These measures, though occasionally controversial, highlight a broader acceptance that the winds are here to stay, and so is the need for proactive strategies. Ultimately, the Santa Ana winds are a force of nature, stubborn, unpredictable, and deeply embedded in California's history. As the climate continues to shift, understanding these winds becomes even more crucial. Their power reminds us that we share this landscape with natural cycles older and more potent than our modern infrastructure. Yet hope persists. Through research, innovation, and collective efforts, Californians strive to mitigate the worst outcomes. From aerial firefighting to neighborhood preparedness, each layer of defense helps. While we can't control the winds, we can control how we respond by respecting their might, preparing diligently, and working together to lessen their toll. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history of the Santa Ana winds and California wildfires. If you enjoyed this episode of History's Hidden Tales, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And let us know in the comments what other hidden stories from history you'd like us to explore next. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.